Should you be tracking macros or should you be counting calories? Which one's right? What's up, guys? It's Anthony from AB Fitness Center, where we help you to lose body fat, gain muscle, and get stronger. Today, we're going to discuss the difference between the two. This question actually came about from one of my clients. We were having a conversation about it, and she was asking about macros. You know, should I just be counting calories? Should I be worrying about macros? And I've had people ask me the opposite question too. So what are my calories if I'm tracking macros? So today I'm going to cover all this and explain the difference between tracking macros and counting calories. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. This way you never miss a beat and you get real, applicable fitness information without all the fluff. Guys, make sure you follow me on Instagram too. If you have a question, just head on over to Instagram at AB Fitness Center and I'll be sure to get to your question. So let's get rolling. So first and foremost, how do we lose body fat? How do we gain muscle? How does all this work, right? So if you want to lose body fat, you need to be in something called a calorie deficit, meaning you need to eat less. It's pretty commonsensical, right? If you want to gain weight and you want to gain muscle, you need to be in a calorie surplus, meaning you have to eat more calories than your body needs. So that's the first and foremost. So regardless of if you're tracking macros or counting calories, as long as you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to lose body fat. It's literally that simple. So don't get that confused. But now what's the difference, right? So what are macros? Let's start with there. So macronutrients are things like protein, carbs, and fat. We'll start with that. Alcohol is also a macronutrient, but we won't talk about alcohol right now. So those are the main three. So most people, when they practice flexible dieting, they track macros. So they track their protein, they track their carbs, and they track their fat. So always people have the question of, well, how many calories should I be taking in? First and foremost, protein and carbs both have 4 calories per gram, and fat has 9 calories per gram. So that's how you get the calories from how much protein there is, or how much macros there are. So if you have 100 grams of protein, that's 400 calories. So typically, if you're counting macros, you're actually counting calories. But there's a difference between doing the two, and I'll explain. So why tracking calories only is suboptimal? So Anthony, you're going to ask me, so Anthony, if I want to lose weight, I just have to eat a certain amount of calories in order to do it. I have to eat in a calorie deficit. So why can't I just hit those calories and then whatever? So I'll give you an example. So let's say that you have 1,500 calorie diet. Let's say that that's what you need to lose body fat. So you start eating those 1,500 calories every day. So you start losing some weight, but you're kind of eating everything. So it doesn't matter as long as it's within your range. This is kind of like Weight Watchers with their points. Like it's kind of like the same type of a thing. Weight Watchers has its own issues, but neither here nor there. It's about counting calories. So why it's suboptimal? Because if you eat 1,500 calories a day of just like the standard American diet, typically your carb intake is going to be through the roof and your fat intake is going to be through the roof and your protein intake is going to be lower. So protein is vital for transforming your body. Protein is the building blocks of muscle. So inside 1 pound of muscle, there's amino acids, okay, that are the building blocks of muscle. So in order to build muscle and change the shape of your body, lose body fat, which is the fat that's in between the muscle and the skin, you have to have higher protein, okay? Because then you're giving your body those essential building blocks to build more muscle. But aside from that, protein is vital because protein keeps you fuller longer. So for example, that 1,500 calorie diet, if you have 60 grams of protein a day, right, and you weigh 150 pounds, you're way under the amount of protein you need. And protein has a twofold effect when you eat it. One, your body has to heat up a little bit to burn it up, burn off those extra calories, okay? And two, protein keeps you fuller longer. So on a 1,500 calorie diet with only 60 grams of protein, you're gonna be way more hungrier. Now versus a 1,500 calorie diet with 150 grams of protein, you're gonna be a lot more fuller, you're gonna be a lot more satiated, and you're gonna have a lot more building blocks to build more muscle and burn more fat. Here's my little demonstration stuff. All right, so I want you guys to comment below. I want you to let me know, which do you prefer? Do you prefer just counting calories or do you prefer tracking macros? Which one do you prefer? Which one do you like better? Let me know in the comments below. I'm just curious. So, which is easier, right? It's easier so what's more optimal, I guess we should say, right? So what's optimal is tracking macros, okay? And it's easier to make changes when you focus on macronutrients. So for example, if you're supposed to eat 150 grams of protein, 100 carbs, and 40 fat in a day, right? If we need to make a change to your plan, and I do this with all of our online clients or in-person clients, it's much easier to say, okay, we need to lose a little bit more, we need to get things rolling again. Let's take 10 grams of carbs away from your diet. So now you're at 90, right? Let's just say that's what happens. It's much more easier to focus on those changes when you need to do that, right? So, or on the opposite end, if you wanted to gain muscle, you could say, okay, I didn't gain anything this week, I'm gonna add 10 grams of carbs. Or, okay, my body's not responding right now, I'm gonna take away 5 grams of fat. So you have a lot more flexibility, and it's a lot easier to make changes during your fat loss journey when you're tracking macros, because it's much more diligent and on point. The other thing, when you're tracking macros, it's way more accurate, because in things like my fitness pal and all these calorie counters, sometimes what happens is there's errors in the calories. So food labels are actually allowed, I think it's like a 10% error, margin of error in their food label. So if something is really 100 calories, they could put it at 90. They're allowed to kind of make that change. So sometimes when you put things in my fitness pal, even though the macros may line up, the calories might be different because there's a margin of error in there. So this is why when you track macros, it's way more accurate, and you'll actually eat less calories when you're tracking the macros, because then it's going to be on point. Sometimes, like I said, it's over or under, so you'll actually have a way more accurate measurements when it comes to your diet, okay? On the other side of it, tracking macros can be tedious. It can be a little annoying. It can cause anxiety if you're a perfectionist, because you got to hit those, okay, I need 90 grams of carbs every day, 90 grams of carbs, and you're like measuring out like every piece of like Cheerios, like every Cheerio. So it can give you a little bit of anxiety. That's kind of like the other side of it. But like I said, if you're tracking calories only, usually you're gonna have to diet on a lot less calories because of that margin of error, like I told you before. So if you're gonna count calories, here's where I would set it. This is exactly what I would do. Okay, so if you wanna just track calories, if that's what you like to do, that's fine. But if you're gonna track calories, you need to set a protein goal for yourself, because protein is the most vital macronutrient when it comes to transforming your body. So set a protein goal for yourself. So again, typically it's about 1 gram per pound of body weight. That's like the typical standard. So if you weigh 120 pounds, you need 120 grams of protein every day, and then just figure out your calories from there. But as long as you have that minimum, everything else will kind of fall into place. So if like I said, if tracking macros gets a little annoying to you, if it's too tedious, if it causes anxiety, then maybe that might be the best way to do it. So what is optimal? What do you need to do? Calories or macros, which one? It is the most accurate way possible is tracking macros. And you have to take this into consideration for what your goals are. If you want to step on stage and be a competitive, bodybuilder, and you need or a physique competitor or whatever, then you need to track those macros down to the last gram, because it's vitally important. If you're the average mom who just wants to drop 20 pounds, here's what I would do. If your tracking macros is just way too tedious for you, I would give yourself a buffer. So for example, if I gave you a meal plan right now and I said, okay, you're gonna have 150 grams of protein a day, 100 carbs and 40 fat, that's your plan. I would set up a buffer for you where I would say, okay, your carb intake is supposed to be between 90 and 110. Your fat intake is supposed to be between 30 and 50. This way you have some wiggle room, you have a little bit of buffer, so you don't have to get right, you don't have to get too tedious with it, and you have a little bit of a buffer. So if you have 45 grams of fat in a day, it's okay, as opposed to oh my god, I missed it by 1 gram. So some people get a little crazy with that, and I've been guilty of that before too. So that's the best way to do it. So that's the difference between tracking macros and tracking calories. Okay, bottom line, if you want to lose body fat and change the way you look, you need to be in a calorie deficit. So if this video helped you, I want you to watch this one. This is I think I got it this way, it should be right here. But it's a 3-phased approach to transforming your body. This video is gonna make a lot more sense to you with what to do and the different phases of dieting, because you're gonna have to go through different phases. So make sure you check that video out. Also, in the comments below, I dropped 2 things for you, 2 gifts. I dropped a link to our private group. I set up a private group for people so we can interact a little bit more and I can help you. So the link for that's in there. And I also dropped a link for a free recipe guide in there with all the recipes that we use and some of the stuff that's on this channel as well. So that's in the comments below. So check that out. Make sure you share this video with a friend, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.